People are getting the newest FSD version, but is anything noticeably different? Omar says, yeah, it drives better. He says it feels so good, and Dirty Tesla took his Tesla for a drive, and it had 0 interventions and felt great. The lane wobble seems way better. I have experienced this a few times as well, and I had a few issues with the curves before, but for him, it's good so far.
The last thing I want to say, there's some prominent Tesla people out there that have been saying version 12 is a better driver than they are. Now, sure, there are some bad human drivers out there, but the way I see it, I'll be honest, I consider myself to be an S-tier driver, and there is nothing that version 12 does better than me. And let me be clear, I'm obviously not expecting it to be right now, but it's not smoother, it's not more decisive. I just think anybody out there that's saying that is either 1, a bad driver, or 2, is being a bit disingenuous.
On average, I agree with Dylan. On average, there's nothing that FSD V12 right now does better than me on average. But there are moments when it realizes a few tiny things before I do. These don't happen very often, but they do happen, and when they do happen, I'm pleasantly surprised. There's one instance though where we could argue that bumper-to-bumper traffic is handled by FSD smoother than human driving. Mostly because if you sit in bumper-to-bumper traffic, sometimes you lose your focus and the cars start moving, and then maybe you want to go a bit faster and therefore you press a bit too hard on the accelerator and the car is not as smooth as it could have been. Also, admittedly, when FSD did notice a few things before I did, I was jamming to the song from Michael Jackson and Justin Timberlake. So while I was focused on driving, I wasn't 100% focused just on driving. And specifically what it noticed was I was about to enter an intersection and there was a car coming out making a turn, and it seemed like maybe the car would make the turn a bit too wide getting into my lane, so I would want to slow down, but FSD started one tiny moment before I would have. Bank of America has lowered its Tesla stock price target to $220, down from $280. They say, we think that Tesla will face mounting profit pressure from a weaker demand environment unless Tesla taps into new geographical markets. We see it hard for the company to generate additional sales with its current product portfolio or without cutting price further, the bank said. Well, interestingly, Tesla's first Model 3 and Model Y units have landed in Chile as the company's efforts to begin ramping up EV sales in South America have officially begun. Also, the leader of Argentina is about to meet with Elon Musk in Texas, and we all know that Elon Musk is going to be visiting India later this month, so Tesla is entering new markets as we speak. Which other markets are they talking about? Africa? Morgan Stanley has a new Tesla stock. No, we believe Tesla, an auto company, may be unusually well positioned in the first 3 of the above attributes. So that's data, compute, and energy. Then they continue, but investors are struggling to see how the company can use its infrastructure and network to achieve a path to monetization. There are paths within transportation. Over 10 trillion miles are traveled annually in the global auto market, but FSD take rate and robotaxi may not move the needle significantly in the near term. That's all they care about, the near term, right? While August 8th may be important to the stock, positive or negatively, we are eager to hear about the next thing. There have been a lot of Morgan Stanley Tesla stock notes lately. And of course, they reiterated their $310 12-month price target. Tesla just launched a Model Y long-range rear-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive in Europe. This is quite interesting. Cybertruck was launched, and then interest, of course, died down quite a bit. But then the interest started to accelerate again. It's almost like the more Cybertrucks are on the roads, the more people talk about the Cybertrucks, and the more people want to buy Cybertrucks. This is no coincidence. I have been expecting this. And of course, this is really good news for Cybertruck's demand in the long term. This is proof that people are actually really interested in the Cybertruck, and the initial hype, even though it has died down, it's coming back. For all who wonder why Tesla insiders are not buying stock given what is happening with FSD, Keep in mind that these guys for which trades would be disclosed, the top guys, all of which sit on dozens of millions in Tesla stock and in some cases hundreds of millions, and in Elon's case, many billions of dollars. Given their relatively small salaries in comparison, buying additional Tesla stock at current prices is barely needle moving for them. Ark Invest says that Tesla stock is going to $2,000 per share in 5 years, and they got a new blog post, finding signal in noisy auto data. Since late 2023, media headlines have seized on data showing that electric vehicle sales growth decelerated in 2022 and 23 from 113% in 2021 to 59% and 28% on a year-over-year basis, respectively. Our research contextualizes this deceleration in growth and suggests that traditional automakers cutting back on EV investment are at risk of missing the transition altogether. It is a bit hard to believe that ICE vehicle sales actually grew year over year 9% in 2023, but that is going to be temporary. Seemingly more important than growth in measuring the health of the EV market, market share is sending signals that belie the media headlines. Importantly, as shown below, the sales of gas-powered vehicles peaked in 2017, displaced first by hybrids and plug-ins, then by fully electric vehicles. Between 21 and 23, electric vehicle sales roughly doubled from 4.8 million units to 10, increasing their share of the global vehicle market roughly from 6% to 12%. By the way, if you take hybrids out of the calculations, it doesn't seem like they had year-over-year growth if we just look at pure ICE vehicles. But I would say hybrids, if you cannot plug them in, yeah, that's a gas-powered car with regen braking, basically. Media pundits and many investors fail to appreciate the nuances of adoption curves involved in the process of disruptive innovation. Perhaps counterintuitively, growth rates typically decline as the market scales into a new technology, as shown below. In other words, everything is going according to Ark Invest's plan. Decelerating growth does not suggest that new products, including EVs, are losing mass market appeal. Quite the contrary. At only 13% share of the global market, EVs seem to be entering, not ending, a traditional adoption curve as shown below. Perhaps exacerbating the analytical challenge, the auto market is not a monolith. Different vehicle segments and price points come into play as time passes. Each time an EV launches into a new segment with a lower price point, another adoption curve begins. Ultimately, each segment curve aggregates to the total adoption chart shown above. Clearly, growth will flatline as EVs approach 100% of the market. The key question is, can the industry continue to produce increasingly affordable EVs profitably, taking market share from gas-powered vehicles? We believe that the answer is yes, and I fully agree with that. For those companies investing aggressively now, now is the keyword, as we explain in another article to be published soon. Oh, stay tuned. I expect them to publish their new 5-year Tesla stock price target before the end of April. Gary Black also made a whole bunch of revisions. He reduced 2024 deliveries to 1.8 million, so flat year-over-year growth, down from 2 million. He reduced his 2024 gross margin projections down to 15.7%, and for 2030, he reduced gross margins down to 21%. He reduced his EPS estimates, but he increased FSD revenue to assume 10% of current 30-day trials renew at $200 a month and long-term take rates of 15%. He still assumes a $25,000 EV launches in 2026 and accounts for 50% of 2030 volumes. But how Elon Musk is talking, how the Tesla team is talking, I'm not sure about the next generation vehicle at the moment. I think we will find out what's going to happen with it on August 8th. And maybe the Tesla team itself doesn't really quite fully know what they are going to prioritize, the robotaxi or the next generation vehicle. I think because they are no longer compute constrained. Right now, they are prioritizing robotaxi, and by August, it will be probably very clear. Is this the right move, or do we need to go back on prioritizing the compact vehicle? I don't have the new FSD version that just came out yet, but I'm looking forward to testing it, and I will be watching all of these new videos, and I will try to see what the improvements are. If the improvements suddenly stop a few months from now, then yeah, FSD progress would stall basically, and that would not be great. But looking at ChatGPT, using ChatGPT 3 was fine. Then 3.5 came out, I was like, whoa, this is quite a bit better. It's actually useful in many regards. And ChatGPT 4, it's actually really useful. And they were able to make these improvements fast because you can use all of internet's data. And Tesla right now, it's getting a lot of data. And Tesla can increase the gathering of data, I think, exponentially if Tesla really wants to do so. So compute is no longer the constraint. What is the constraint now, by the way? What is it? Anyway, Gary continues, my 2030 deliveries remain at 8.8 million. And he predicts that in 2030, Tesla stock will be at $540 per share. So you discount that to today at 13.6%, and you get $250, which is his 12-month Tesla stock price target. There's a Tesla bearer that's criticizing Gary Black, but I will say this, you guys, I don't include this account in my videos because if you think that Gordon Johnson is a bit questionable, he takes it to a whole new level. But anyway, he asked, why would 2025 deliveries rise by 19% year over year, or 350,000 units, if there are no new models? Gary explains, number one, Model 3 refreshed won't be capacity constrained anymore. And number two, Cybertruck production will be ramped up at Austin, so plus 100,000 units. And you have seen that Cybertruck interest chart. Clearly it's going up. The hype is not dying down. It's growing. And then he predicts that Tesla will start advertising to attract current ICE buyers, which will drive Model Y, S, and X sales. So plus 120,000 units. I assume no $25,000 vehicle sales until 2026, which includes both the compact or the robotaxi. Oh, second half of March saw an increase in short positions of Tesla stock, with now 107 million short interest, number of shares. See below table from NASDAQ website. And right now, the short interest still remains higher. It takes again a bit more than 1 day to cover the shorts, as the average daily share volume has decreased during that fortnight by nearly 20%. Still a very small number, only 3.37% of all shares, about 4% of the float, are short interest. We will know mid-May who increased their short positions, as they have to disclose their positions. Tesla made a new post about that new Model Y long-range rear-wheel drive in Europe, maximum range that allows you to commute all week without charging at an even more accessible price. So the price is lower because it has one less motor. Lowest cost per kilometer in the electric SUV market. It's not available in every single country in Europe, but in most, yes, it is available. Oh wow, look at the range difference. So with the rear-wheel drive, you get 600 kilometers. Now with the all-wheel drive option, 533 kilometers. So that's more than 10%. And it's still pretty fast, 5.9 seconds, 0 to 60 miles per hour instead of 5 seconds. Anything under 7 seconds, I like. And the price is significantly cheaper. The all-wheel drive is 55,000 euros, and this one is only 49. You know what? If I'm price conscious, if I don't live in the hills, I think this is the best value. James says this will support volume at the expense of average selling price, better than price cuts, however. So this is a bit of a price cut. Yeah, I think unless I really had to get all-wheel drive, I'm going with that longer range rear-wheel drive option. Ironically, the slower car is going to get you to your final destination quicker if you do go on a pretty lengthy road trip. Oh, we got some confirmation. Tesla's new Powerwall 3 uses LFP batteries. Powerwall 2 didn't. This means that all of Tesla's energy storage products, Megapacks and Powerwalls, have now fully switched over to the lower cost lithium iron phosphate chemistry, which also lasts longer. And they have lower risk of catching on fire. We suspected this a long time ago, but it's good to have this officially confirmed now. James is also happy about this because it gives more batteries for Giga Austin. Tesla says they will be releasing Powerwall-free expansion units for $1,000 less in Q3. It will make installing systems with 2 or more units cheaper and easier. The expansion units don't have solar inverters though. And side controller electronics, all Powerwall-free use LFP batteries. Yeah, not everyone is going to use solar, so this is a good move. Tesla's making some price adjustments. In the US, Tesla has reduced the 7-seat Model Y seating option by $500 down to $2,000. 1 year ago, the option cost $4,000. The seats in the Model Y, the extra 2 seats, they are not for adults, by the way. I mean, I can barely fit in the Model X in the back seat. So this I don't think even teenage children would be comfortable. It's for small children. Someone actually did it. But your head, yeah, I think my head would just, I don't think I would actually fit. My head would touch the roof, definitely. And it's funny how you cannot see his whole head. But hey, look, if you have small kids, I think it should be pretty good. Oh, Logan Paul, who got over 20 million subscribers on YouTube, he just gifted a Tesla Cybertruck. And yeah, we are seeing that even people that clearly have a liberal bias, some of them are buying Cybertrucks without any issues. Tesla reveals humanoid robot technology through new patents. Here are some of the drawings from the patent application. Here's one and the next one. What's a bit interesting is that the first gen Optimus is featured in those drawings for the first patent application and not the current version. The next patent is specifically for the knee joints. And the last patent application that we found is particularly interesting as it relates specifically to the Tesla Optimus hands. The patent application is called Under Actuated Hand with Cable-Driven Fingers. Here's the patent. I can't wait to listen to Stephen Mark Ryan making some jokes about this patent. I believe that Tesla bot has no gender, but I'm not fully sure after seeing some of these patents. Sawyer is hyping up the Tesla bot. Let's see what he says. In the feature, the Tesla bot will enable massive cost savings for Tesla and other companies at the factory level. Unlike human workers, a humanoid robot can operate for extended shifts exceeding 8 hours without the need for breaks, vacations, or sick leave. My shoulder still hurts. It's been like that for 3 months now. I'm feeling quite a bit better, but I would make a lousy factory worker. I did some work in a factory though when I was a teenager. It doesn't require health insurance, retirement plans like 401ks or lunch breaks, and it doesn't experience fatigue. While occasional maintenance will be necessary, it's not a significant concern compared to the myriad expenses associated with human labor, like me getting injured in the gym and not being able to work in a factory. Yeah, a Tesla bot is probably already a better factory worker than me in this current conditions. I can lift everything with my right hand though, so that's no problem. Dylan weighed in, and I agree with him when this happens. Breaking: Tesla now promoting slavery with new AI product. Tesla bears and legacy media. Here's what happens when the Waymo's HD map incorrectly says that a traffic light intersection is a 4-way stop. You know what happens? Nothing, which is exactly the wrong move. The car does nothing for 3 minutes, 20 seconds. It just sits there, then it turns on its hazard lights, and then finally somehow it gets going after 3 minutes of sitting in there, annoying everyone, making everyone upset, but not a safety critical thing, I guess. It's just quite annoying. I'm sure Tesla will have things like this too later on. The point is though, you don't need to be a better driver than a human driver for the system to be deployed. You just need to not make any critical mistakes. Now, this is the main problem with HD maps, and this is why a pure vision approach is definitely better. A Tesla vehicle would not go in there because it would just understand, oh, it's a construction zone. Okay, I cannot be here. But when you use an HD map, it says, oh, you can definitely go here, so just go ahead. But imagine if they just laid new asphalt or cement right here, and then the car just went through that. This happened in Phoenix, Arizona. Ooh. if someone in your house drives a Tesla, you get $10,000 off Mach-E lease. Mercedes updated its 2025 EQS sedan with better range and a small design change. I mean, the battery was already pretty big, but now it's even bigger. And Mercedes in Q1 sold 47,500 BEVs, which is year over year a retreat of 9%. Mercedes-Benz Group shrinks by 6% across all vehicles in the first quarter this year. In the meantime, BMW has just sold its 1 millionth electric car. BMW sold 82,700 cars in the first quarter of this year, which is up 28% year over year. Good for them. This is a pretty nice dashboard showing improvements from V10, V11, and V12. Direction is good. Still very far from autonomy though, he says. You can see the percentage of drives without critical disengagements on V10, 87%, V11, 91%, V12, 96%. Percentage of drives without disengagements, V10, 39%, 47%, and 72%, a massive improvement. And a lot of these is good. It's just going to be pressing an accelerator pedal during a stop sign, because it has to come to that full annoying stop, which no one really ever does unless there's another car, but you have to let go first. And then miles to critical disengagement, 66.5 miles, 72 miles, 161 miles. Now we want this number to be very high. We want this number to be in the hundreds of thousands, ideally millions of miles. And miles to disengagement, 12.5, 12, and 30. Now, there is something that's not going to be shown here, which is very important to understand. I tried V11 in construction zones a few times, and after seeing how horribly it performed in construction zones, I have never done that ever again. So naturally, the data that you would have gotten from me in terms of disengagements would be a bit flawed, because I'm not driving FSD V11 in difficult circumstances. V12, however, I feel like I can throw anything at it pretty much. The only thing that annoys me, that actually prevents me from using it all the time, is lane selection. It selects the wrong lane some of the time. Now, if it was a robotaxi, it would be no problem, because it can eventually figure out the right lane, even if it gets you to your destination 1 minute later. So instead of arriving at your destination in 10 minutes, you get there in 11 minutes. No big deal if it's a robotaxi. But if I'm driving myself, it's annoying. But it's not a safety-related intervention. Usually. Not always, because sometimes it realizes last second, oh, I need to be on this lane, and then it tries to merge. But if you have bumper-to-bumper traffic that's going at 50 miles an hour, that can be a bit dangerous if you are trying to get in the lane within half of a second. So for me, number one issue with V12 is lane selection. But in conclusion here, V12 is actually quite a bit better than what those numbers are going to tell you, because V12 is just going to be driven a lot more in actually difficult situations compared to, and V10, I never personally tried V10, but knowing how bad V11 was in construction zones, I cannot imagine it being, yeah, it must have been pretty terrible. Oh, Faraday feature falsified sales records? A former employee alleges. That's probably right. It's just an allegation, but yeah, I mean, in the last year, it dropped 99%, and year to date, it dropped 86%. If you zoom out, it already says it dropped 100%. Yeah, it's only worth $3.5 million. The company is done. It's over for them. Here it says, we expect Tesla management to guide on the Q1 earnings call to flat year-over-year deliveries growth, which is likely already discounted by Tesla stock. For credibility, we hope Elon does not blame the 8.5% year-over-year decline in Q1 volume on higher interest rates, since other automakers don't seem to be as impacted. We know that US Q1 overall auto SAAR was up a healthy 7% year over year. And housing sales, I think is what Gary meant here, remain near the highest levels in years. Consumers are buying homes and cars despite higher interest rates because the economy remains strong with unemployment near record lows. But then he also points out that Q1 year-over-year sales of competitors are not comparable because they sell through dealers rather than direct to consumer, so everything is delayed by 3 to 6 months basically in their cases. We estimate that EV competitors, excluding Tesla volumes, were up 15 to 20% year-over-year in Q1, led by Volkswagen, up 91% year-over-year, Hyundai up 76% year-over-year, Kia up 151% year-over-year, BMW up 41%, BYD up 13%, and Ford up 86%. If Tesla increases its ad spend to communicate Model Y's low cost and ease of charging to its owners, assuming Cybertruck ramps and Model 3 changeover issues at Fremont are resolved, a new Tesla 2024 deliveries guide of 1.8 should hold up. Ooh, Rivian stock is down 8%. This time is due to Ford declaring a price war in electric trucks. Wow. Oh, I see. Ford is also offering existing Tesla owners an additional $1,500 off the price of a new Ford F-150 Lightning. Morgan Stanley made me laugh in their new note. Adam Jonas says Tesla's fleet drives more miles in 5 minutes than Apple's now canceled autonomous fleet had reportedly driven in a year. By 2030, we estimate Tesla's global vehicle fleet will approach 40 billion units in service, driving over 400 billion miles per year, over 1 billion miles per day, or nearly 13,000 miles per second. From our conversations with AI experts, such a monumental data set may be an advantage for machine learning and neural net training. No, not maybe. It is. It definitely is. Imagine building a large language model without being able to access all of the data on the internet. How would you do it? You couldn't. Oh, and Polestar delivered 7,200 EVs in Q1, which is a 40% drop from 12,000 in Q1 of last year. Moment of silence for Polestar. What are we looking at here? This is a three-way all Tesla crash in LA. All right. Now, the most interesting part to me is, yes, it's all Teslas, but how many Teslas can you see? I see 4. There's the 4th one right there in the background. Undeniably, EVs are taking over LA. I also did this poll. FSD V12 made me choose one of the options. The absolute majority of the people chose more bullish about FSD, and keep in mind that 11% of the people chose to see the results, so the actual number is much higher. That's it for today. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next episode.